smell. His mouth is the blazing fire. Please repeat. His arms are the demigods.
His arms are the demigods.
Headed by Indra.
Headed by Indra.
The 10 directional sides.
The 10 directional sides
are his ears.
Are his ears.
And physical sound.
And physical sound
is his sense of hearing.
Is his sense of hearing.
His nostrils.
His nostrils
are the 2 Aśvinī-kumāras.
Are the 2 Aśvinī-kumāras.
And material fragrance.
And material fragrance
is his sense of smell.
Is his sense of smell.
His mouth is the blazing fire.
His mouth is the blazing fire.
Gauda, we are ready.
Okay, purport. The description of the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead made in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is further explained here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The descriptions in the Bhagavad Gita 11:30 runs as follows. Quote, O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people in your blazing mouth and covering all the universe by your immeasurable rays, scorching the worlds. You are manifest. End quote. In that way, Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study for the student of the Bhagavad Gita. Both of them are the science of Krishna, the absolute truth, and so they are interdependent. The conception of the Virat Purusha, or the gigantic form of the Supreme Lord, is said to include all the dominating demigods, as well as the dominated living beings. Even in the minutest part of a living being, is controlled by the empowered agency of the Lord. Since the demigods are included in the gigantic form of the Lord, worship of the Lord, whether in his gigantic material conception or in his eternal transcendental form as Lord Sri Krishna, also appeases the demigods and all the other parts and parcels. As much as watering the root of a tree distributes energy to all of the tree's other parts. Consequently, for a materialist also, worship of the universal gigantic form of the Lord leads one to the right path. One need not risk being misled by approaching many demigods for fulfillment of different desires. The real entity is the Lord himself, and all others are imaginary, for everything is included in him only. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshusha Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadanti Swapadanti Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakopa Tuvischa Kripasindu Bhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So let's go back to the verse again. His arms are the demigods headed by Indra, the 10 directional sides are his ears, and physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the 2 Aśvinī-kumāras, and material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire. So here we're getting a conception of the inconceivable. This is in the beginning stages of self-realization, how we can actually try to get an understanding of Krishna. And as Prabhupada writes in the purport here that, this manifestation here is actually a transcendental form of Krishna. And it includes all the demigods, all the dominated and dominating living beings. They're all representative of Krishna. In fact, Prabhupada, at the end of the purport here, highlighted he says here, the real entity is the Lord himself, and all others are imaginary, for everything is included in him only. So if we think about that, if everything's included in Krishna, then that means that there's nothing that exists outside of Krishna. And since nothing exists outside of Krishna, unless we become Krishna conscious somehow or another, as we're seeing in the universal form or Krishna himself, if we don't become Krishna conscious, then we can't be happy and peaceful. It's not possible. How can you live outside of Krishna? That's an illusion. It's asat. Therefore, any happiness we may experience in the material world is illusory happiness. Maya Sukhaya. It's actually a shadow of actual happiness. It's like today you see, it's very popular, in this technical age, this gaming, people doing online gaming, where they play an imaginary role, as an avatar or as a soldier or as anything. You can actually play a role as anything, and you can actually become that person in an imaginary way. So you can act out that role. So this is the illusion. They're trying to be happy. Does that actually bring happiness? It's like trying to enjoy a shadow. It's like if I offered you a shadow of a plate of prasadam, would that satisfy you? Or would you be satisfied with the shadow of a spouse? Actually, some of these online games, they actually have you can actually create your family and so many different things like that. It's a shadow family, a shadow country, a shadow city. You can create these things. You can create a shadow kingdom, world. You can actually be in control of planets and worlds. But it's all shadow. This won't satisfy. And because of this, there is so much misery in the world. And what is our reason? Is because we're trying to exist without Krishna. Because everything's Krishna. It was very nice. We had Jayapataka Maharaj's association here. And he gave a nice class, evening darshan. He was saying that he met a scientist. He said he hadn't met many scientists, but he met this scientist, and he asked him, "What is it that you are trying to study, or what is your research?" And he said that I research pain. He said he works for a pharmaceutical company, and pain is big business. So he was explaining to Jayapataka Maharaj about all the different types of pains. Like there's physical pain, there's mental pain, there's emotional pain, there's psychological pain. We have so many pains. And so his job is to research these things, and what they do is they try to give people a drug, a temporary fix. It's almost like taking some intoxicant, to forget your pain. But after the intoxicant runs out, then, you're back to your same place. So it's all temporary, illusory. So it was very interesting how this scientist was saying, now that I've been doing this research, I've noticed that everywhere I look, no matter who it is or who I see or meet, at any moment, everyone is in some kind of pain. They may have a very healthy body, but they have psychological pains. Or they may have a very, wonderful family life, but yet they're very physical pain. So this could go on. It could go on and on and on. And every moment we can see, like right now, this room is cold. I feel some pain in my knees. They're kind of cold. So, we're always experiencing these pains. But it's interesting how Jayapataka Maharaj explained to him that, I had a high fever about 30 years ago. He was explaining to the scientist. And he said that I was in so much pain, but I was listening to our founder, Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, giving some lectures on the nectar of devotion. And he was explaining, even though I had so much pain, but I was experiencing Paramananda. I was experiencing this supreme bliss, this transcendental happiness. And the scientist says, well, you know, in scientific language, we call this distraction. It's only a distraction from your pain. But Gaudacandra was reminding him that actually in our spiritual scientific literature research, it says that this is actually Paramananda. It's actually transcendental happiness. So this is we actually have an opportunity to taste this transcendental happiness. It is here. It is available for everyone. You know, we're all trying to struggle and be happy. We could see this is a very need for everyone, is to be happy, to be healthy, to be somehow or another safe, feel safe, and away from illusionary, imaginary living. We experience this everywhere. It's like a dream. It's described. You know, in a dream, you create so many images, so many characters, so many things, but it's all illusory. You experience the happiness and the distress in that dream, actually. You know, sometimes you'll cry, you'll scream, sometimes you'll laugh, sometimes you experience some sensual pleasure in the dream even. But it's all, you wake up and it's all temporary. So this is what it's like even in the daydream. We're imagining something that is real, but it's not. The only way it becomes real is if it's in touch with Krishna. If it's separate from Krishna, then it's a complete illusion. So we want to leave this world of pain. We want to go to a world of bliss. And we can experience it even here and now. In our temples right now, there's devotees jumping up and down, dancing, chanting, enjoying prasadam, so many things. So they're actually tasting and experiencing this by serving the deities in so many different ways. And this is all due to a drop of mercy that's given. It's described that if you just have one drop of this happiness, of love of God, pure love of God, you get this ocean of happiness. But if you just get one drop of that, it can inundate the entire world. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He actually came to this world, to this Western countries, and he just gave us a drop of his mercy. And because of that drop, we see everywhere, all over the world, people are chanting, dancing, you know, becoming very blissful. They're experiencing this Paramananda. We're getting free from this illusory pain that we see here. So here, this chapter that we're on, Prabhupada refers to the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where, you know, Arjuna is asking to reveal this universal form. But in the 10th chapter, this is where he's actually praying to Krishna and asking him to reveal that. In the 15th verse, he says, "Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Please tell me in detail your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds." So this is he's wanting to conceive the inconceivable. How do you do that? He's praying to Krishna, "O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you, and how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? O Janardana, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I'm never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words." So this is a hint Arjuna is giving here, that just the more and more we hear about Krishna, simply by hearing about him, we can actually experience and conceive this inconceivable, and also taste the nectar, taste that bliss, that Paramananda. It's just for Krishna, because Krishna's so powerful, inconceivable, that even in his name and in his, you know, remembering his pastimes, whatever, it is Krishna. So also here in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this is the verse where Prabhupada refers to in the purport. And now here, Arjuna's vision, you're seeing all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash into destruction in a blazing fire. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths, covering all the universe with your effulgence. You are manifest with terrible scorching rays. So we'll see in this chapter, it's described how we're seeing the face of Krishna. The smiling face of Krishna is very enchanting. In the material world, it's like it represents the attraction, the beauty of the material world. Anything that's very beautiful is like Krishna's enchanting smile. But if you're attracted to the enchanting smile of the illusory representation of Krishna, then that enchanting smile, his teeth, right? It's what smiles, that attracts you to his teeth. And what happens when you come into that jaw that has those teeth? So this is what happens. You get, devoured by this eternal time. So this is a kind of a nice description here showing how, the living entities are just being burned in this material world, in this samsara cycle of birth and death, because they've turned away from Krishna. They're trying to be Krishna unconscious instead of becoming Krishna conscious. Due to their envy, they wanted to be in a position of Krishna. They didn't want Krishna to have that position. They wanted to be them to have that position of Krishna. So that's envy. So there's no way you can have that in the spiritual world. So they're thrown into this material universe Krishna has created, in such a way, and for the purpose of showing us. And that's why we're experiencing pain at every moment. That's why it's such a big business. What a smart business, huh? Nobody's without pain. So if you could sell them something that would temporarily relieve that, you could be very wealthy. And this is what these pharmaceutical companies are doing, giving them drugs to make them illusory happiness, to think that they're actually free. But they never become free. It's not possible. Everyone's burning and suffering. And this is simply a reminder, to remind us that we don't belong here, give us an impetus to go back to the spiritual world. If we're intelligent, we inquire, why am I suffering? Why am I experiencing this pain? I don't want to experience this pain. So this is the purpose of this whole material universe, is like that. So here we see in the material world, what is the result? Trying to enjoy this Maya Sukhaya, illusory happiness, performing sinful activities and performing reactions. Jayapataka Maharaj was mentioning in the class about how we just celebrated the marriage of Tulsi and Shaligram. We celebrate that every year here in the temple on the Sunday program. We follow that. And he said whoever came and saw that ceremony, and then the devotees raised their hand and he said, yeah, whoever saw this ceremony of Tulsi and Shaligram getting married, they're relieved of all the sins of this life. So this is the power of these transcendental oases, these transcendental portholes to the spiritual world, to get us out of this destruction of the material world here, where there's so much Maya Sukhaya. Look at this. This is just suffering. There's no happiness here. It's misery, complete misery. It's like taking drugs. That's all it is. Some temporary satisfaction to satisfy the tongue, to dull the mind, to satisfy the senses, to enjoy some kind of happiness or opulence. It's all temporary. It's illusory, because it's not in relation to Krishna. So therefore the suffering, it just ends in destruction of the world. So this is a universal form that we're discussing. If you meditate on this form of Krishna, you can actually become, this is the first step in God realization. You see that actually we realize that Krishna is God and I am not God. So we see the power of Krishna, how insignificant we are compared to Krishna and his manifestations. And then we get humble. We became humble. We're such a tiny fraction. This is a universal form of Krishna. This is in one universe. But there's many millions of universes, and there's many forms like this. There's many, Brahmas, Shivas, and so many things. And it's amazing. Krishna's inconceivable potency, he's aware of what's going on in all these millions of universes. Or to speak, he knows what's going on in Brahma Loka, he knows what's going on in Shiva Loka. He's expanded in everybody's heart. He knows everything. He knows everything. And this is a nice story that Gaudacandra also told us about how Krishna was with Rukmini one time, and Rukmini was, I don't know if she was upset or sad, but she was explaining how Krishna, she was actually explaining this to Krishna. You know everything. You're aware of what's going on in Shiva Loka, Brahma Loka, you're aware of all the different universes, you know everything, but there's one thing that you don't know. It's like, Krishna was astonished. It's like, he was like a little baffled. What? There's something I don't know? He said, yes. I know, Radharani knows, but you don't know. And it's like, wow, this is interesting. And then, so she says, yes, you don't know the love that we are experiencing for you. You don't understand the love that we have for you. So he was like, wow, Krishna was taken aback. So then, a little time later, Narada Muni comes by and says, and Krishna acts as his disciple and washes his feet, and Rukmini brings some water, and they worship him. And Krishna says, my spiritual master, you're always in bliss, but now you seem a little unhappy. Why is that? He said, Narada Muni tells Krishna, I see the symptoms that you'll be leaving this world. And where will people be able to get in touch with you? How will people be able to get in touch with you now that you're going? And he's thinking, wow, Krishna's having a pretty heavy day. First, Rukmini comes to him and says something that he doesn't know, and now his spiritual master's coming and telling him that, he's upset, he's not, what's happening. So he tells Narada Muni, he says that, yes, I will appear again in Kali Yuga, but I will not appear, I'll appear in disguise. I'll appear to spread the holy names of my holy names, which are non-different from me. And just simply by people chanting these holy names, they can come back to me. But I'll go in disguise as a devotee, because at the same time, I'll be able to taste what the devotee's love is like for me. So this is Krishna, and how he appeared like that. So we're very fortunate to have this. And here it's a nice quote I found from the Path of Perfection, how this Mahatattva that we're in, this is very nicely described. The material sky is within the covering of the Mahatattva, matter. This matter is like a cloud. When there's a storm, it appears that the entire sky is covered with clouds, but actually only an insignificant part of the sky is covered. Because we are very minute, if just a few hundred miles are covered, it appears that the entire sky is covered. As soon as the wind comes and blows the clouds away, we can see the sky once again. Like the clouds, this Mahatattva covering has a beginning and an end. Similarly, the material body, being a part of the material nature, has a beginning and an end. The body is born, it grows, stays for some time, leaves some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. Whatever material manifestation we see undergoes these 6 basic transformations. Whatever exists within the material nature will ultimately be vanquished. But herein, Krishna is telling us that beyond this vanishing cloud-like material nature, there is a superior nature, which is sanatan, eternal. Yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nasatsu na vinashati. When this material manifestation is annihilated, that spiritual sky remains. This is called avyakto vyaktat. So that's very encouraging how we can see this is just a temporary show, and it's just again and again it's showing us, giving us so many different examples to tell us how this is just a temporary place. Don't be so attached to this place. We want to get out of this place. And here's a nice, some encouraging verse here from the 10th canto. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, even though we may be in our position, no matter what it is, we throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with our body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities. dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you're otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So this is very nice, and the purport's beautiful. This is by Prabhupada. He says here the word Udapasya clearly indicates that one should not even slightly endeavor to understand the absolute truth by the process of mental speculation, for it invariably carries one to an imperfect, impersonal understanding of God. This is a very nice section here. The word Jivanti indicates that a devotee who always hears about Lord Krishna will go back home, back to Godhead, even if he can do nothing except maintain his existence and hear topics concerning the Lord. Can you imagine this? This is an amazing statement here. This is how you can conceive the inconceivable, simply by doing nothing and hearing about Krishna. This is the inconceivable potency of Krishna. So Prabhupada goes on. Srila Sanatana Goswami has explained the words Tanuvani Manobi by the body, words, and mind in three ways. In reference to devotees, through their body, words, and mind, they are able to conquer Lord Krishna. So can you imagine this? Not only are we able to conceive the inconceivable, but you're able to conquer that personality. Thus, becoming perfect in Krishna consciousness, they can touch his lotus feet with their hands, call him to come with their words, and attain his direct audience within their minds simply by thinking about him. Isn't this amazing? The purport goes on. In the case of non-devotees, the words Tanuvan Manobi refer to the word Ajita, unconquered, and indicate that those not engaged in the loving service of Lord Krishna cannot conquer the absolute truth by their bodily strength, verbal expertise, or mental power. Despite all their endeavors, the ultimate truth remains beyond their reach. So can you imagine the position we're in? I mean, how could we now be envious of anyone, or to speak of envious of Krishna, why we eventually left the spiritual world, is that you're in a position where Krishna is actually, I don't know if you could say envious, but he wants to be in the position of a devotee, to taste the devotee's love, because by that love one can conquer Krishna. Isn't it amazing? In reference to the word Jita, conquered, the words Tanu, Van, Manobi indicate that the pure devotees of Lord Krishna conquer his body, words, and mind. Lord Krishna's body is conquered because he always remains by the side of his pure devotees. Lord Krishna's words are conquered because he always chants the glories of his devotees. And Lord Krishna's mind is conquered because he always thinks about his loving devotees. This is amazing. Okay, this is the last part of the purport. Srila Vaishnava Chakravarti Thakur has explained the words Tanuvan Manobi in regard to the word Namanta, offering obeisances. He explains that the devotees can take full advantage of the transcendental topics of the Lord by offering all respect to those topics with their body, words, and mind. One should engage his body by touching the ground with his hands and head while offering obeisances to the topics of the Lord. One should engage his words by praising transcendental literatures, such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as the devotees who are preaching such literatures. And one should engage his mind by feeling great reverence and pleasure while hearing the transcendental topics of the Lord. In this way, a sincere devotee who has acquired even a small amount of transcendental knowledge about Lord Krishna can conquer him and thus go back home, back to Godhead, for eternal life at the Lord's side. So, I don't know what more we need to hear about this, but there's another quote from the Bhagavad Gita. Mānupetya punarjanma dukhalayama sasvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gati. After attaining me, the great souls or yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So it's proven here. This This material world is guaranteed dukhalayam asasvatam. It's full of miseries. We don't need scientists to go research and find out, that there's miseries, pain everywhere. It's designed that way. It's created that way. And here's another nice quote, encouraging quote from the 12th canon. Those words describing the glories of the all-famous personality of Godhead are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. Indeed, such words are the perpetual festival for the mind, and they dry up the ocean of misery. The sea. We're in an ocean of misery. But how do we dry it up? How do we get out of this? It's inconceivable. But we can do it simply by, hearing Krishna, describing Krishna, thinking of Krishna. So bhakti is so powerful, and there's this nice purport Prabhupada explains here what bhakti has to be. You can't just say bhakti, devotion, but you have to be sincere. And there's a nice bhakta here, Sankirtan devotee. He was listening to Prabhupada, and he said he heard a lecture where Prabhupada said that the word sincere actually comes from, he said Italian or Latin or something, where it refers to these marble, what they call these marble manufacturers, producers, miners, whatever they are. That there's a type of marble that you can buy that's, they're cracked and they've got holes and different things in them, imperfections, and they fill them with wax, like that. So, and then there's another section of marble that you could get that has no holes, it's no wax, it's just completely straight, pure marble. So they actually call that sincere. That's where that word comes from. Sincere somehow refers to, wax and marble or something. But anyway, that's interesting because bhakti has to be pure. In these 5 ways, Prabhupada describes how bhakti must be performed purely. He must fully engage in the 9 processes of devotional service. His only goal should be Krishna service and no desire for attainments in the world. Why would one attainments? Why would one illusion? Why would one want shadow? 2, bhakti must be free from karma, jnana, sangha, varjita. A devotee should not associate with persons who are against Krishna, and he should not become attracted to anything but pure devotion. A devotee at the same time should not be envious of those who are inimical, because the karma of such a person has awarded him that mentality. Devotees should remain disentangled from such a person's karma. So here again, this envious nature is everywhere in the material world, because they're inimical. This envy automatically, originally comes from Krishna. But the devotees aren't envious. 3, the work of bhaktas must be for Krishna, mat karma krit. A devotee should use his energy fully in Krishna service while remaining detached from the fruits of his work. So we can do our work, no matter, as that verse we read, that no matter which position one is in, he can keep it, but one should just be attracted to hearing the nectarian descriptions of Krishna and his pastimes. 4, Krishna must be the goal of life. Mat parama, the devotee should remain unattracted to both heavenly and impersonal destinations. So from the highest planet, even beyond it's describing here, to the impersonal Brahmajyoti, we're not attracted because it's all temporary, illusory, like that. Because even in the impersonal destination, we experience some being, some so-called eternality, but you're not experiencing any bliss. 5, the devotee must be friendly to all. Nivraha, he must be compassionately desire to give Krishna consciousness to others. So this is nice, how the devotees, we have to go out and be friendly and spread this Krishna consciousness movement. This is why they have the Kalpa Vriksha programs going on, where we can expand, the devotees. No matter if you're a householder, you can turn your home into a temple. You can invite people. You can have programs like that. Just like Narhari mentioned, we'll go to one person he met that lives a little ways here in the suburb of LA. Go visit and give them our association, Krishna consciousness. So in this way, this is really sincerity. This is real bhakti. These are the 5 aspects Prabhupada mentions. I think this, I'm not sure where I got this, probably from, I think it was in the Path of Perfection. So this is, we're going back. This is Krishna. All the clouds of the material world, they're all temporary. But as the winds of the favorable winds of the descriptions of Krishna's pastimes come, they will relieve the suffering, itching sensation of the material world, and it'll open up the spiritual world. We can again come back in association with Radha and Krishna. Jai, so thank you very much. I'll stop here and see if there's any comments or questions and discussion.
Thank you, Gauda. That was a wonderful class.
Okay, thank you.
Really nice. Give me a second here. And, okay. So if anyone has any questions or comments for Gauda Prabhu's wonderful class.
Gaudaji, it sounds too good to be true. So sometimes we hear this, and I even thought that myself. Actually, I remember when I first met devotees, and your lovely class, you make it sound just so wonderful. How do we answer that? Well, how do you answer that? It sounds too good to be true, and our experience is that things that are too good to be true aren't. So how do we get beyond that?
Well, this science is a science. It's a very secret science. Even though when they read the Bhagavad Gita, and we give them the Bhagavad Gita, they can't read it. They can't understand it because it's very confidential, secret. But the clue is, as we mentioned in here, is we have to have somehow or another engage in some service, some bhakti, some devotional service. And if that simply means by listening to a friend who happens to be a devotee, devotees are friendly, then that will awaken that. It'll open that lock, and all this transcendental, inconceivable nature of God and inconceivable way to get out of here is revealed by the inconceivable personality. And that's what the inconceivable can do. He can make the inconceivable conceivable, which is only Krishna can do. So, that's what I kind of thought of there. But if you have any other comments about that, I think we can expand on that even more.
No, I like that. You brought that right up in being in class, that calling it sort of an oxymoron that breaks the oxymoron paradigm. It's inconceivable. How'd you say it? I'm not in front of my computer. Inconceivably conceivable? What did you say?
How to conceive the inconceivable.
How to conceive the inconceivable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and only devotees can really understand that, how the inconceivable can be conceived. That was an excellent point. It sounds like an oxymoron, but it isn't. Krishna is so inconceivably powerful that if he could not reveal himself, even though he's infinite, if he could not reveal himself to the finite, he'd be limited. He wouldn't be omnipotent. He wouldn't have the potency if he didn't have the potency to reveal the infinite to the finite, that would mean his potencies were limited. But because his potencies are unlimited, he can in fact reveal the infinite to the finite. Krishna breaks the paradigm of the oxymoron. That's lovely.
Yeah, cool, isn't it?
I'll be thinking about that all day. Thank you.
Yes. Just like, one time they asked Prabhupada, can Krishna create something so heavy that he can't lift it? And Prabhupada said, yes, he can do that. But a little while later, he'll lift it. So, he could do so much. Just like Krishna, how could Krishna not know something that his devotees know? Like we mentioned about that, pastime with Rukmini. But Krishna didn't know that. But now he knows it. And the proof of that is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He appeared to learn that. Only Krishna can do that. But there's another interesting point here, is how we have the highest knowledge, and if we're not sincere, as mentioned in those 5 topics, we may think, I can't understand it. So what happens is they go to another knowledge, some lower knowledge, and because they can understand that, they think that's higher. simply because you can understand something, doesn't necessarily mean it's the highest knowledge. Just like someone may come to Krishna consciousness and they think, they don't understand it. So they leave and they find some other philosophy or something and they can really understand that philosophy and they think, this is the highest understanding because I understand it. But that's just, it's a lower knowledge. But Srila Prabhupada gave the highest knowledge. And if we just follow Srila Prabhupada's, instructions, then we will get that highest knowledge. We will be able to conceive the inconceivable.
Yeah, I have a comment, and we have some questions coming through. I was going to say I very much appreciated these 5 points that Srila Prabhupada made. I hope I can find them wherever you got them from. They were really wonderful. I especially liked, I think it was point number 2, where it's describing how no karma, no jnana, don't associate with anyone inimical to devotional service, only accept which is favorable to advancing devotional service, and be friendly to everyone, and never become envious of those who are inimical to you, because we should understand that by their karma, they have that kind of mentality. They are suffering themselves if they're inimical to us,
Exactly.
Because yet if we hate others, we're the ones that are suffering. We just had this seminar that Mahatma Prabhu did, and also I was hearing some other devotees, the seminar is similar on forgiveness, and it's saying if we have hatred in our heart, if we hate somebody else, and we're wishing them evil, then it's just like trying to hurt them by drinking poison ourselves. Because the hatred, it destroys us. It's actually there's been scientific experiments where people will hate. They'll think hateful thoughts, and then they'll blow into like a bottle or some sort of a beaker, and then they'll accumulate the breath, and then they'll put it on a plant, and they'll kill the plant. So when we hate somebody, we're actually suffering. So I love that, how Srila Prabhupada said that if somebody else is inimical to us, then we should never be hateful to them, but rather just understand that according to their karma, they have a certain type of mentality, and we should only have charitable thoughts towards them.
Yeah, what you said is backed up in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it describes that one who identifies with the wrongdoer, he is as guilty as the wrongdoer.
We have a question here. Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Excuse me.
No, that was the comment where Parikshit was trying to find out from the cow who was beating her. And she said that the one who identifies with the mischief, monger, that he's just as guilty. So anyway, yeah. Just to kind of back up what you said.
Thank you.
So,
yeah. We have another question here. The Archa Vigraha in the temple, or similarly when we chant, is there a particular direction that we should face, north, east, west, or south, that is more favorable than another? So both in as far as how to situate the deity or how to chant, that maybe helps a little bit.
Well, Srila Prabhupada didn't think that was so important, because in a lot of our temples they're facing all kinds of directions. But you're facing Krishna, you're facing everything. All the directions, everything's Krishna, everything's auspicious. Just like they were saying, I think when you chant your Gayatri, you should face east or west or whatever. But someone was saying that if you just face Tulsi or the deity, it doesn't matter.
It's a great point.
That's not so important. But I mean, if you're going to build a new temple and you want to do it according to Vastu and all that stuff, great, do that. It should be good. It's cool. I think they did that with the Mayapur temple. But you know, if you're just building a temple anywhere, it's Krishna's everywhere. Just accept whatever's there. Hope that helps.
Gaudacandra, you had mentioned that verse you quoted, at 10:14:3 verse, Ajita Jito, was Prabhupada's purport. How is that? Mm-hmm. I only thought that Prabhupada translated up to the 13th chapter, the 10th canto.
No, this was the third chapter.
Sure. Excuse me?
Yeah, it was the third chapter. It was the third chapter. I mean, yeah,
thought
third.
It was the 14th chapter, text 3.
Oh, yeah, see. I think they quoted Prabhupada in the purport. Yeah, you're right.
He did go over that verse with Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. That was the one that Lord Chaitanya accepted. So I was thinking maybe it was from there, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, you might be right there. But anyway, they're quoting Srila Vishwanath Thakur and all the Acharyas. But yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah, that's right. I thought it was the third chapter, but 14th chapter. I think Prabhupada stopped at the third chapter, didn't he? Or fourth chapter?
13.
Or maybe I copied that wrong. Oh, he stopped at the third. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because I think
remember they published it as a little teeny book when it first came out. It was only that one chapter. That was some time ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, thanks for that. But the message is still there. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I have something to add. We dug them out of the dust.
Yes, cool. Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In the mode of ignorance, those in the mode of ignorance, and we see this almost every day, they think that this material world is a place made for their enjoyment.
Right.
But it struck me that this universal form places everything in its relative position, like the demigods, the planetary systems, the social orders, and seeing it all arranged at once, one understands the Lord's predominance and the purpose of his creation. You know? Mm-hmm. And so in this one verse, quoted in the purport, "O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people in your blazing mouths and covering all the universe by your immeasurable rays, scorching the worlds you are manifest." So it's like a ghastly form. You know, Arjuna asks for it to be removed at one point. But Arjuna, he's witnessing the insurmountable purpose of this cosmic creation in this terrible form. And by seeing this, one can understand how this world is designed. You know, even how the living entities can also find their way out by sacrifice. You know, what's up, what's down. So anyway, I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a nice lecture we listened to on Sunday here at the temple. Prabhupada was saying the difference between the mature world and the spiritual world. He said that the spiritual world means that there's full consciousness of the existence of God, and the mature world means through full forgetfulness of God. So he said that's the difference between the mature world and the spiritual world. And he said, so if you're in the mature world, if you're Krishna conscious, you can actually bring the spiritual world. And he said, how is that possible? And then he used the analogy of the iron rod, that if you put the iron rod in fire, then it gradually becomes warmer, then it's like red hot, and anywhere it touches it burns. And so it's no more iron rod, it's actually fire. So he's saying if we always keep ourselves in the fire of Krishna consciousness, then even if you possess a mature body, you'll be in the spiritual world. So that was really nice.
Yeah, the example is that the material energy, is, even though it's the separated energy of Krishna, and it's the source of bewilderment for most of the living entities here, it can also be it can be spiritualized if we connect it with Krishna. If we connect it back with Krishna, if we see everything in relationship with Krishna, we use everything in the service of Krishna, then even a car can become spiritualized, or and ultimately we become spiritualized.
Now, is that inconceivable or what?
No. Well, it's amazing. We should feel so fortunate that we've been given this, understanding that we can actually turn this material world into something spiritual. But if depending on how we conceive of it, how we see it, and how we use it.
Yeah, so conscious. Yeah.
This is actually a very nice philosophical point, because the impersonalists, they can't understand this, and that's why they think that devotional service is karma. And you can actually see how Krishna plays with that when he says, one who sees inaction in action and action in action. I kind of always took that Krishna was playing with the impersonalists a little with that verse, because he's very good with his words. He could just say, one who sees devotional service as spiritual can understand that when someone's inactive, they're still performing karma, but a devotee, he's performing devotional service, so it's actually inaction in action. But it's just fascinating. That particular point is they can't conceive that what you're doing is spiritual. The deity is spiritual, devotional service is spiritual. They can't understand that. So it's nice we can just talk about it so casually, but nobody else can understand it but those who've got the mercy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah, any other good points?
Yes, there's some other questions that came through, but I have an appointment, so this will have to be the last question, because I have to leave and have to close up class.
Okay.
Asking for clarification on, can you please explain the meaning of Bhagavad Gita? In other words, the name. What does Bhagavad Gita mean? And what does Srimad Bhagavatam mean? The Sanskrit translation, that's what they're asking.
So Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan, and Gita means a song of God. So Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna himself, personally. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the beautiful stories about Krishna and his devotees. So they're one and the same. Srila Prabhupada says the Bhagavatam in this purport was the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. So wherever Bhagavad Gita leaves off, the Srimad Bhagavatam expands and goes into more detail. So if you read the 10th and 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and then you read this second canto, it'll further explain the universal form, as we're doing in these classes. So it goes like that. So sometimes Prabhupada said that the Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study. So like that.
Okay, they're asking if you could please elaborate on the meaning of Bhagavat and Bhagavatam. Bhagavat and Bhagavatam.
Bhagavad refers to Krishna. Bhagavatam, there's the book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavata, and they're the one the same. They're the beautiful descriptions. Srimad means beautiful. Bhagavatam, the activities of Krishna, Bhagavan, and his devotees. So this is Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken about Krishna and his devotees.
Haribol, Ramananda.
Maybe someone else could come further?
If I can ask about an unrelated question after the class, is it possible if he has time, he can call me on Skype?
You're asking if Gauda can call you?
Or if he can stay, I can call him back because I have a question unrelated to the subject.
Sure. You could just call me at 800
She's
927.
This is Mother Gauda. She's in England.
Yeah,
If you Skype her, that would be better.
Okay.
I can send you her Skype.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll have to open up my Skype. And what's your contact information?
I'm going to put it in the chat for you in just a moment.
Okay, thanks, Prabhu. Alrighty. Well, I hope you don't get late, Ramananda. But I hope that helps the description. I mean, we could give a whole class on these, the description of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's described in the 12th canto. You could read the 12th canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam. The glories of Srimad Bhagavatam is described there. Very wonderful chapter. If you read that, then you'll really get what Srimad Bhagavatam is.
Gauda, maybe you could describe how Bhagavan is the possessor of all opulences.
Yeah,
Bhaga meaning opulence and Vana, possessor of all.
Yeah, like Bhaga comes from Bhoga. Bhoga is meant for Krishna. Bhagavan, he is the possessor of all opulences. Bhagavan. Bhaga means Bhoga, and Van means possessor of all enjoyment, all everything. So like that. So there's someone I remember in Denver, he liked that name, Bhagavan, so he named his son that name. He wasn't a devotee, but he was just favorable. Okay, so is that it?
Thank you, Gaudacandra Prabhu, very much.
Thank you, Gaudaji.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
very nice.
really a great class. By the Prabhu, Gaudacandra Prabhu, I put it in the text to you personally. Be sure to grab those two texts, because as soon as I press stop meeting, it's going to disappear. You got them? From
Is it under start meeting? Is it in the start meeting chat?
Start meetings chat.
Okay, let's see. I don't see it here. It's M. Daridasi?
Yes, there you go.
Okay, let me just copy
All
it.
right, thank you very much, Prabhus.
Thank
and all
you.
glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Bye.
Jai Bo.
I made a bowl of eggs and it was ready.